Welcome to another live stream, Legends. Well, guys, like I just said to you guys before the stream here, I wanted to take a look at Bitcoin on several different time frames, just starting on the 1 minute, or sorry, rather the 5 minute here, just because this may change very quickly as the lower time frames do. I do have myself into a little bit of a short right now. My reasoning for that is the same Stuber fib setup basically that I was talking about this morning. I actually ended up taking a short, laddering in my 786 and 886, so my average entry was basically in the middle, and we did hit my first target, the 0.5 fib. Now guys, I do see reasons why the bulls are looking fairly strong. I still want to catch a nice short position because I think the overall trend is still to the downside, and I will be bearish until proven otherwise. However, I am willing to give credit where credit is due, and I do see reasons why the bulls could push a little bit higher. So the rest of that position ended up getting stopped out very quickly at break even. But then when we got back up to this level, I just saw just looking at this as a very tight invalidation setup, that I was looking at playing this double top. I actually only got one order in. I was waiting with another half of my order for if the price ended up going up just closer to my 115 to try and get my average entry even closer to my invalidation, basically, just as a form of risk management. Unfortunately, I only got my first order, but basically the perfect top, and it always feels nice and not very stressful when you immediately go into profits like that. So I did, like I said, just taking another short from resistance at this level. The reason why I waited until we were a little bit higher here to re-enter on this setup, even though I had the Stuber fib here, was because after getting that initial test, I know I talk about this all the time, but after my initial test and testing the first take profit, basically, I lose a lot of faith in that setup a second time, just because if we keep tapping away at resistance, it's more likely to break eventually. But the first time, it's so often we get that initial reaction. So on the second time, I waited until we got higher. I was more so looking for the double top. I was actually hoping for a swing fail there, but unfortunately, so far, just a double top there. And I basically have my stop loss just above 87,666, because I don't really want to see us get back above this fib pocket here, because I think at that point we will carry on a little bit higher. And like I said, there is reasons I'm going to get into why I think the bulls could make a further push to the upside, and why I just wanted to remove my risk from the position as quickly as possible, basically. Because I basically don't want to see us just tapping away at this resistance, because if that happens, it's just a matter of time until we end up breaking it, right? But so far, just for what it is, why I wanted to play this and why I was confirming this as a lower high is just because we had this low and we did get a wick slightly lower. Yes, that's a beautiful swing fail to get a nice long position out of, and it shot us right back up to resistance. But the structure is still bearish. That reaction is very natural after you break structure to get a pullback, and it's nice how fast it happened here. It was a nice reaction, but it's also nice that you can get back right to your resistance levels so quickly as well, right? So since the structure's to the downside, I'm still treating this as resistance here. Want to zoom out a little bit. The 4 hour, guys, I did post about this in the pro signals. There's a lot of basically red flags with this chart. I don't know how many of you guys would have been in my public stream with Financial Summit yesterday, but I was talking about this 4 hour chart and how there's actually a lot of hidden info on this chart. Basically, I'm going to go over everything I see here on the 4 hour one, and honestly, far mostly important here, it is just naked structure, right? Just taking it for what it is. I've been watching this lower low that we set. That confirms the highest point between the two, our lower high up at 95K. This is not a personal bias, you guys. This is just basic market structure. The structure is bearish until we break that lower high. That's all there is to it. These I'm not considering higher highs. I mean, they are on the micro trend, but on the overall trend, we have not taken out this high, just like we have not taken out this low. Therefore, this range is still very much in play, and it would look something like this, because I'd be looking for those resistance fibs, right? That's why I'm pulling top to bottom here, because we have this structure break, so I'm treating this as my lower high, pulling my fib, and for a typical Stuber setup, a 5 minute or a 1 minute, this is where I would want to be starting to enter my positions, basically, and kind of laddering in something like that, ideally. where I can pull my average entry up and get it much closer to my invalidation there. But yeah, basically the idea is not starting positions until the 786. And although here's the thing, guys, on any time frame, I always treat market structure the same. So if this was a 5 minute or a 1 minute, that's where I'd be looking to short. I'm still treating that as resistance on the 4 hour. I would love to get to that level and short it, but I do see so many reasons why we could be showing weakness early. And also, basically, throughout this whole trend, since we topped out, we weren't quite getting those full, well, I guess those times we did, but there's a lot of examples on the way down where we just never even did get to our 786 before getting a rejection, right? So a lot of times on the 4 hour since January, we have been seeing weakness early. So that's one thing that I want to obviously mention, because for one, structures to the downside. Yes, resistance is up a little higher, but again, we might see weakness early. With this indicator here, you guys, this is the legacy trend dynamic indicator. Honestly, the main reason I use this indicator is because I love the way it looks, right? That's why my candles are so colorful. But there is actually something to the candle colors. And you guys know that often I'll talk about the MDX Trendmaster, for example, is something. It's not so much that I take every individual signal as a signal on its own, but I love to notice which way things are trending. And one thing that I notice about the colors of these trending of this downtrend is that, just notice we had our bright red reversal up here, bright red reversal down here, bright red reversal a little lower, and bright red reversal potentially even lower, right? So we're seeing a series of lower lows proven by just the straight up the color of this indicator and how it prints the momentum of the candles, basically. So that on its own, obviously I'm not trading just based off candle colors. Okay, it's just another additional little bit of confluence. With the RSI here, we did end up getting into overextended conditions on the RSI, and we did get a bearish divergence. Now, one thing to consider about this was not the exact same bearish reversal as the weekly chart that I've been so vocally bearish about. This isn't my perfect reversal signal, but it is still a bearish divergence where the RSI is going down and the price is basically trading at the same resistance level. So take it for what it is. But even if we end up climbing a little bit higher, I think it would set us up for a perfect case of getting that bearish reversal, right? If we could get the RSI right back up to that 70 level and see a rejection there, that's more so the RSI reversal signal that I like to see. But I also like to see it with structure, like a double top, for example, or sitting in a Stuber fib or something like that. So again, not my perfect RSI reversal signal, but it is still a bearish divergence. So, I mean, it is what it is, right? Down here with the Wave Master indicator, we had this overextended bearish reversal on the 4 hour, and that was right at the high of this trend so far. So again, we're just starting to see some signs of weakness a little bit early on this chart, in my opinion. And again, I'm just favoring the bearish side of things as long as we're below 95K, just because of the basic structure of this chart, right? Now, guys, and those of you who were with me yesterday, this will sound familiar, but I know you're often told, when in doubt, zoom out. And I know naturally that's supposed to be a bullish statement. As I zoom out is actually where my concern grows. So that is my huge overall concern in the market, because if I zoom out from the 4 hour to the weekly, basically, you guys, if this was a 5 minute setup, here I'm actually going to delete this. This is just basically, this fib is to show that if we end up dropping further, I think we have great support down here around 63K down to 56K, just because that would be a Stuber fib, right? We ended up breaking this structure, breaking the support of this range. It makes sense that we would end up testing a Stuber fib pulled from the previous range, basically. That's how I would do it on a 5 minute or a 1 minute chart, and I don't care about time frames. You know, if this was a 4 hour, I'd be looking at it the same. Structure is structure, and the price loves to go to those pockets, so it doesn't have to. I want to be clear about that. But this is a level that I'm watching, and if we get there, I will be very interested in looking for long setups. That's basically why that's there. I'm not saying we have to get there, but if we get there, there's going to be certain things I'm looking for trading, basically. Here is where I have a serious concern with this weekly chart. One, we still haven't broke this divergence trend line that I have here, but even if we do, so this is something I mentioned in the Discord early this morning, was if we end up breaking this with the RSI, for one, I think at that point it's absolutely, it looks to me like if we broke this, that we would end up trending higher and seeing new all-time highs, seeing the price be able to break out. One concern I do have about it yet would be we'd have to watch how it forms, because if we end up forming, let's say we start getting up towards this level, basically anywhere from Stuber fib territory, because again, if this was a shorter time frame, I would be looking to short the shit out of this chart, basically anywhere from the 786 up towards my 115, basically. So as soon as we start getting up towards that Stuber fib, which would be around 102k, understand there will be a lot of FOMO in the market. There will be a ton of bullish posts on social media. However, if the RSI gives us something like this, for example, where we just get another big bearish divergence on the RSI, where the price, let's say the price does something like gets up here right as the RSI starts kind of getting towards that, just a very specific bearish divergence, right, from overextended territory right to the 70. If we can have that type of bearish divergence, I mean, basically the way that I break this down and how it's easier to understand is if we had a ton of buying pressure here, right? Because in an uptrend, especially on the weekly, when you have an uptrend and your RSI is in overbought conditions, that just means that it's a shit ton of buying pressure, right? There's a lot of strength, relative strength index, very high up here. If we come towards the same resistance level that we couldn't break last time and we have significantly less strength in the market, why would we break that level? So again, this is all theoretical. Just like before Christmas, I was talking about this shaping up right here. That's just kind of the same thing now. Is I'm just talking about it because it's something that we should be aware of as a possibility towards happening. But it's just something to watch for now if we end up breaking to the upside, right? Now is where, again, guys, I am actually, no, not going to zoom out yet, because the weekly, we also still have this bearish reversal sign here in overextended territory. We haven't got a bullish confirmation quite yet. So I think there is possibly room to the downside on the Wave Master indicator, and as well, you guys, the high frequency trading bots. Okay, these bars in the middle here, these are high frequency trading bots, and they have been pushing the downside for the last, what is that, 8-9 weeks, something like that. So they're still pushing to the downside currently. So basically there's just a lot of red flags, and it's not to say we can't go higher. That's the thing as traders. It's important to be able to react to what the price gives you, looking for certain setups if certain things happen. And this is one of those things where I would be happy to be wrong about this, and not even wrong, honestly. It's just, I'm just telling you what's currently there, because I would rather trade a chart that's actually there than making something up in the future that doesn't even exist. I'm not going to trade based on, well, maybe we break out. That's not how trading works. So basically, I just want at least one thing, one bearish thing that I've been talking about for all of 2025 so far. If just one thing would get invalidated, I could at least start to consider a bullish, some sort of a bullish reversal, an actual market recovery. But the fact is that since I've been so bearish and everything is just continuing to play out the way I kind of predicted, and the indicators, nothing's really flipping back at this point, I just have no reason to flip my opinion yet, right? Now let's zoom out even further, guys. This is where it gets very scary if you're bullish on crypto. And honestly, guys, I am very bullish on crypto long term, okay? I just also love bear markets. They're a lot of fun. But here's where I have a few concerns. One is these order blocks, basically the only 5 times, well, the last 4 times in Bitcoin's history, the only 4 times before right now, these boxes being broken were straight up market reversals, right? Like when we broke this block here, we ended up getting a nice bull market. When we broke this block here, nice bull market. Broke this one here, bear market. Broke this one here, to be determined, right? So far, I don't like, even if this monthly candle closes green, this is a massive engulfing bearish candle here. It broke structure. The first time structure has been broken to the downside since we bottomed at around 16K. So it's not, you guys, it's not that the bull market has to be over, but there's a lot of people who make it sound guaranteed that we're going higher. And I just want you to understand that the market does not give a shit about our gut feelings, or, you know, I'm just looking at the charts and the structure that's actually there. To go with this, if we want to look for a little bit of confluence here, let's take a look at my vertical dotted lines here. Notice where our monthly wave master indicator ends up getting these bearish crosses on the indicator. This is where we got our bearish cross, right at this cycle top around 20K. We end up getting a bullish one down here. This was right here around 4,000 US dollars. Beautiful bull market from there. Here we get another bearish cross. Where did that happen? Yeah, we ended up going higher once again, or basically double top territory, but that was the big signal that, hey, things were reversing, right? Whether or not we went straight down, we definitely got a double top, swing fail, whatever you want to call it, followed by that structure break, and then, you know, well, you can see what happened. Then we end up getting a bullish cross. That happens right after the FTX collapse, basically. And now we have got, so far, this candle has not closed yet, you guys, but it closes very soon here. How long do we have here? 4 days until this candle closes. And we do so far have this bearish cross. It does not have to close that way, but that's how it's looking right now. So that's the thing, guys, right? Anything can happen. All of these things can be invalidated, and we carry on parabolically to the upside. But just understand that you can't just ignore the red flags and pretend they aren't there. The weekly and the monthly and even the 4 hourly, there's so many red flags out there that it would just be, it feels careless to me to only be able to look at things bullishly right now. I would love it if we went to new all-time highs. I would love it if we went absolutely parabolic and a bunch of my meme coins and a bunch of my altcoins recovered and that sort of stuff. I just have my doubts, and I have my reasoning for wanting to trade the short side of things, because I think that it's more likely to catch a running position to the short side, even if that means going higher first. I just can't help but feel like there's a big downside move coming, whether it's a slow bleed or a very quick massive move. I don't know, right? And I could be wrong. It's not like I'm entering leverage positions based on the monthly and the weekly chart. It's just helping persuade which way I'm trying to catch a running position. But like I explained earlier, I'm still looking at things very cautiously. No matter how bearish I feel right now, I understand the bulls could make a stand, make another push, go to the upside. But that's why I've been updating my stop losses quickly. That's why I like playing Fibonacci setups, because you have your take profits there. Because the thing is, guys, the reason why, well, in my opinion, the reason why most people don't trade shorter time frames well is because a lot of people are looking for a trade on a 1 minute chart, and they're looking for the type of move that you get out of a 4 hour chart. You know, you have to remember to play what time frame you're actually playing. You need to remember to actually have a strategy that you can repeat, a strategy where you actually take profits, you have invalidation levels, because before you enter any trade, you should kind of have an understanding of what's the worst case scenario if this goes against me. No matter how positive I am about this setup, the market doesn't care about that, and anything can happen. So what is worst case scenario? That's personally why I like isolated leverage. I don't like cross. I know a lot of people use cross. I just personally don't like it, because I like isolated, because I know worst case scenario, a stop loss is not even always worst case scenario, okay? In slippage events, even with a stop loss, you can get liquidated, and that's what scares me about cross leverage. Not saying it happens all the time, or even that it's likely. It's just something that can happen, and it has happened to me on isolated positions in the past, which is why I continue to use isolated positions. But yeah, to each their own, obviously. Oh, JB, I just saw your message there, and I hope that I did explain the RSI divergence difference there. And just for a refresher, just in case, basically because this RSI never did test the 70 perfectly, whereas on the weekly chart, it got that perfect touch of this overextended line, basically. Might be off a couple points or something, but it's very close to that, going from overextended right back to that 70 line. Just like on the bullish side, I would look for way overextended and then retesting the 30 level. But again, I also like structure with that, whether it's a double top, double bottom, Stuber setup, that sort of thing. So yeah, like this one's close to it. Like I said, it's still a bearish divergence. It's just me being a little bit picky. Let's take a look at the trend master. We do still have this buy trend, so we do still have support below us right now. Again, I'll give credit where credit's due. That's another reason why I think that, I'm still very much approaching my shorts with a cautious attitude. I'm hoping to end up basically taking profits on half my positions quickly, updating my stop loss very quickly, and hoping to catch a running position, right? Even though we have this buy signal on the 4 hour, it is a lower buy signal. So notice, again, I was talking earlier about trending indicators. Just notice as soon as we got a lower sell signal, lower buy signal, lower sell signal, lower buy signal, lower sell signal. And now we're just going to have to see. I see we dropped below this Stuber fib pocket. So again, just another reason why if we break above this 886, why I don't really want to be in my short anymore. At that point, we're starting to test above this fib pocket too much. Like we had this initial test, we had another double top at this level, testing up a little bit higher, still the same setup because we're just kind of into our resistance zone here. But the fact that we're testing it so much, I really don't want to get back above this level. I may regret it if I get stopped out up at 666. I might end up regretting that, but again, I just don't have that much confidence in a trade right now because I do see the reason why we could push higher. I'll still take a good setup when I see high reward setup, right? Just because, again, this was such a tight invalidation above my 115 here, and I was willing to take that stab. I want to take a look at hype, you guys. I know I have mentioned this on a couple streams now, both my public ones as well as in the chat here, or in the altcoin chat. I know I also mentioned it, but yeah, basically we had a nice setup here where hype ended up breaking some resistance here. You can see my little green trend line here. So that's my bullish signal, where here we did break the downtrend, right? The fact that we just had a series of lower lows, lower highs. We had a low, lower low, lower high. We end up breaking that. There's our bullish signal, but I'm still waiting for that fib pullback, right? So I just basically chased the price with my fib. So basically right after we ended up climbing up here, that's where I'm starting to look for a 786 pullback, right? And we just weren't getting it. And then boom, all of a sudden we came down, filled that pocket perfectly. The very next candle, we ended up hitting my first target. I've updated my stop loss to break even quickly because there is a little bit of FUD going on with Hyperliquid right now. I'm not going to get into that because I'm not a fundamental guy and I might not, I just don't understand fully what's there. All I know is I'm aware of it. But that being said, we are still climbing, right? The fact that we filled that pocket perfectly, have hit the 0.5 fib. I'm hoping to end up hitting the 214, and if it just keeps climbing from there, great, right? I do want to zoom into some lower time frames on this, just see if I can see weakness. I'm going to go right into the 5 minute. Let's be real here. What do we have? I want to get rid of this. So on the 5-minute trend, so here's where we had our micro analyzed low. We got a little bounce, and then we ended up going a little bit lower. So technically, right after we broke this, I know this seems like micro analyzing to people who aren't used to my analysis, but that's basically the signal there that, hey, things were looking like they may reverse. If you didn't want to look at that and you wanted to more so consider this or whatever, no matter how you look at it, we broke some structure there after testing the 4-hour pocket. So again, just another reason I don't really want to see us come back down to those levels. And if we do, I just want to be stopped at break even on that position. Let's take a look at what's the trend master saying. So yeah, we had a few, obviously we had several lower sell signals, and we basically just pushed above that here. So I don't know, it's still looking like there's a little bit of strength there. You know what though, looking at the 5-minute, there is one red flag that I see, just like what happened back here, is there was a structure break right here. Right, so again, I know it looks micro-analyzing, but technically on this uptrend here, we ended up setting this high. We got a little pullback here, higher high. As soon as we end up breaking that structure, notice what we did. We end up, like what I was talking about on the monthly with those order blocks. Look, we flipped that one right into resistance, just like what the monthly looks like it's doing, right? If we can reclaim that, yeah, I think it's quite likely we go higher, even if we reclaim this level here, actually. Because again, on just a micro time frame, scalpy type of level, on this just immediate trend since we reversed here, this would be our lower high, right? Because low, lowest low, lower high. So if the bears are going to remain in full control just on this micro trend here, then they would end up pulling the trigger right now. Since we did get this reversal with this structure here, technically there could be a scalp short here, but the fact that the 4-hour actually has a little momentum to it, I don't know how much credit I want to give a 5-minute scalp like that. The 1-minute also broke its micro downtrend, so I think I would consider waiting until the 1-minute lost some microstructure. Like if we end up doing something like this, then at least you would have some sort of microstructure breaking to give yourself a little bit of confidence in a setup like that. Just kind of mapping out a few things randomly here. We'll keep an eye on that. Woods, welcome, welcome. Good to see you here. Welcome, everybody. Yeah, I would appreciate it if Bitcoin would just absolutely nuke right now, but I don't know. I still, a big part of me really thinks that we're still going to get up to that 91K. If I were a betting man, and I definitely am, yeah. But again, guys, when I'm seeing weakness on the shorter time frames, I'm still willing to get into those shorts with those tight setups, just hoping to catch a nice runner. But like ideally, I would love to get up to this level. And it's not even that I'm interested all that much in playing the long to that level. It's not even that. I just want to get up to this level to start looking for lower time frame shorts, looking for those microstructure breaks on the 1-minute and the 5-minute, looking for Stuber fibs, looking for RSI divergences, whatever. Looking at the trend master to flip to lower trending buy and sell signals on the 1-minute, for example, but seeing any sort of those confirmations on lower time frames when we get to my 4-hour resistance levels, that's really what I'm hoping for. Ben Cowan's post today talking about potential upcoming death cross. Honestly, I think he's one of the few people and he actually has a big following, but he's one of the few people who I think actually was looking at that reversal the same time as me. With that big RSI divergence and stuff like that on the weekly. I think I recall him actually talking about that as well. I have seen him make some nice calls. He's no capo, but and yeah, to go with that death cross, I mean, that's kind of what I was looking at on the Wave Master on the monthly, right? Where we have those crosses, and the fact that this is going to cross in, what is it, 3 days? 4 days, 1, 2, 3, yeah, 4 days. In 4 days, if we get this cross, I mean, that's never been a good look for Bitcoin in the past. Yeah, get rejected off that 786. Do it. Yeah, I myself don't use moving averages and watching them cross other than whatever they actually are on like the Trendmaster and stuff. I know that's probably just a moving average of some kind. So whatever is on my preset settings here, which it looks like we're kind of losing this level. So here's something interesting, right, guys, is the fact that I said, we do have a lower buy signal here. And now the fact that we're starting to lose this buy trend as we're testing Stuber fib resistance, if we could get this confirmed with a lower sell signal here, that would make me feel really good about this position too. If you do fib time zone from each of the low to the high, it aligns perfectly. That we already topped. See, I've never done time fibs or anything like that. And I haven't even looked at extensions. I more so look for retracements when I'm looking at fibs. Honestly, the one thing that makes me still a little hesitant to be bearish is I just feel like we should have another 6 months to a year of bull market, but obviously the market doesn't care what I think, and I haven't really done much time analysis myself. I'm always a structure guy, and I don't care what people are tweeting. I don't care what fundamentals people want to claim as bullish. All I'm seeing is a lot of uncertainty in the global markets. There's trade wars going on. There's new alliances. There's new enemies. There is a lot of uncertainty in global events. So no matter how bullish people want to think things are, it's very uncertain at best. So to have that lining up with bearish technicals, I can't ignore those red flags. I would love to be bullish again. I'm just having a hard time until we at least invalidate one of my weekly or monthly signs, or at the very least break a lower high. We haven't since, actually this was the only time we got a nice little Stuber fib pull off of this. But other than that, we ended up invalidating that again right away, setting a lower low. So since January 20th, and I mean, for those of you who have been following me, it was right around Christmas, I was warning that I thought we were going to top out in a Stuber fib on January 20th. And what happened? We ended up going slightly higher, but that Stuber fib was never invalidated. So this 4-hour Stuber fib setup absolutely played out perfectly on that day that I predicted, because it seemed like such an obvious sell the news event, you guys. That's another thing, is the amount of FOMO that I saw posting as we're getting up to resistance right as Trump was taking office. All the moon boys really just thought, straight to 250K or straight to 1 million, whatever. But realistically, a lot of uncertainty came with that. And again, a sell the news event. It was just so predictable. I don't even know if that's going to be the market top, but it was so obvious that it was going to be at least a midterm correction. And that's, you know, all political bias aside, that has nothing to do with anything like that. Just it was an obvious sell the news event as we were trading into resistance. That's all there is to it. Oh god, astrology going on. Nice. We used to have a guy in here who would always do analysis based on the moon cycles. Anybody here remember Big Bobby? Shout out to Big Bobby if you ever hear this video. Oh, here we go. The people remember. Explain one more time where I pull my fibs. I can. So in a case like this, so it's not just that I'm pulling from pivots, right? It's that it depends what type of range you're looking for, what size of a range, because there's always smaller ranges inside bigger ranges. So it really depends what you want to be pulling. But there's certain structure breaks that go with that, right? So here, for example, the fact that we had a low, lower low, the highest point between the two, since there's a low and a lower low, not a high and a higher high, that's a bearish sign, right? So even though it's just a wick, just how the structure is, that's a lower low. Highest point between the two is our confirmed lower high. Since I'm looking for resistance in that case, since it's downtrending, I'm pulling my fib from the top down to our lower low. So it really depends. Actually, if you want a better example, if you go to my Twitter, if you have Twitter, or X, I suppose, I have pinned to my profile a Stuber fib video that I did with my Financial Summit channel. This is a public one. There's a more in-depth one that's only for my private Telegram people, but that's a separate thing. But this right here basically gets you started, kind of goes over the basics. It's a nice intro level Stuber fib video. Here, I can always just post it. That's just easier than me going over because I actually explained the structure and what I'm looking for a little bit. Okay, so here's a perfect example, right? Like I say, people love to call it micro analyzing, but notice what I said there. Low, lower low, lower high. Where did we get rejected, right? It's obviously a small range. Honestly, that range would have already played out because we would have gotten, if you played that as a Stuber fib, you would have got 3 entries, the 786, 886, and the 1, and you would have got very close to the 214. So depending where your next take profit would be, that, and I know that's a very small range, but it is what it is, right? You always trade the range first, hope for a breakout second. Whatever Fibonacci pull that you have, that is your range. If you've pulled way too small of a range and you don't feel like taking profits at the targets, oh, it did hit the 214 actually. It totally hit the second profit there, and my cat's losing her shit for some reason. But yeah, this little micro swing here, or wait, let me redo that. I gotta pull this fib here. From here down to here. No, we're very close to it though. But yeah. So even that bearish microstructure still holding true, right? I'm not going to consider this a higher high. Technically, the wick is a little bit of a higher high, but that was also a bit of a swing fail. So again, depends what size of trade you actually want. But yeah, Bitcoin so far still holding this range here, still holding the 786 as resistance. Love to see it. Absolutely nailed the top on that. That was a little bit luck. Like I said, I was hoping for a second entry up here. Never got it, but whatever. It is what it is. I'll take it. stress-free. So nice of me, even though I'm Canadian. Yeah, sorry, eh? You know how mean, how rude we get. Um, yeah, does anyone else have any questions or requests or anything? I'll probably just be here for like 10 more minutes or so. Basically, babysitting this trade from now. Let's bring this up. Still haven't got that lower sell signal that I wanted, but yeah, I have a feeling it's forming. It's loading, in my opinion. Adrian has an important question. Oh boy. I can take a look at Sui. $15-minute, you say? I assume you have it pulled something like this. And if this is the case, Mihao, I would totally agree with this setup. I even like that we have this little break of micros. Actually, never mind. I don't actually consider that a break of microstructure. Oh, just accidentally muted myself. Yeah, I would totally consider this a valid Stuber setup. And if you did it properly, you were laddering into your position. So you would have hit 3 of your entries, and your average entry would most likely be somewhere around your 886. But yeah, I like that. Just don't forget to take profits on the way. The fact that we got a swing fail, yeah, I mean, that on its own is a trade setup I like to take, but just understand that, you know, technically this could be seen as a higher high, which means we may end up getting a bounce even if we end up hitting these targets. There may be a nice bounce there. So it's just always important to start paying yourself quickly when possible, right? Adrian has an important question for me about our lovely Trump coin. I will hop into Trump next. 1 second. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, good eye, Mihao. That's a great one. So the reasoning for that, for anybody wondering, is because obviously on this micro trend, right? Let's just say from here, higher high, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, and we end up breaking that. From there, that's where I kind of go over, okay, now I can start pulling my fib, right? Because we had a break in structure. I start chasing the price. When do we end up getting back to the 786? Well, all of a sudden we start getting up to that resistance, right? So then laddering into position to bring the average entry up. I usually ladder in a little bit heavier at my top 2 entries. I do like a 20, 20, 30, 30 kind of a thing usually, just to help pull my entry up. And yes, that means that often your position and your gains are smaller than you wanted, but it also means that if you end up taking a loss, it's going to be a lot smaller and more controlled. So Trump coin. Let us look at Trump. You know, I don't know why I have not shorted Trump in a while. Let's take a look at the old 4-hourly here. I'm actually going to delete all my drawings. Let's start fresh. Now, technically, with this break in structure, there could be a bullish Stuber fib loading. That would mean a pullback back down towards $10. But if that happens, I mean, it could actually be a good level to watch for longs. That hurts me to say because I love shorting this coin. But honestly, there has been so many times that it has done something like this and then just dumped off a cliff anyways, right?
Yeah, it's not exactly what I would just want to say.
Yeah,
how many times you've been already there?
It's not like it looks good. It just looks a little less bad than it's looked before. Yeah. Trendmaster got a buy signal, already struggling to hold it. That's on the 4-hour. That's the first ever buy signal on that coin, but that's because it takes a certain amount of data before it can print signals and stuff, right? I'm gonna take a look at the 1-hour. What do we got going on the 1-hour? Quickly, it's a higher sell signal, but the buy and sell signals actually don't agree with each other right now, so that's actually a little bit less reliable there. RSI is starting to look, that could definitely go overextended though. And I think that would be a nice setup again for that potential bullish setup down here if the RSI did drop a little further. Let's get into some more proper time frames. Let's get into the degenerate shit here. So technically, micro-analyzing, we lost an uptrend right here. Here, let me make that a little more reasonable. So that's basically where we ended up breaking structure to the downside. That is where you'd end up pulling a fib from. So the price never actually quite made it there. So we could just keep pulling a fib from this point here. And if it got some sort of a bounce, get, let's say something like so. Would be some nice resistance if we end up climbing a little bit. What else? What else can I find here on our favorite? Oh, actually one did play out here. Notice here we had our low, and we set a slightly lower low here. If I pull a fib from here, that would be our most recent micro fib pull basically, right? So yeah, it's a little bit late now because it's already hit the first target, getting very close to the second. But yeah, the micro trend is back to bearish right here, basically, unless we break above this level. This is just the 5-minute, so take it for what it is. But that would be my lower high currently on the micro trend. If we end up pushing down a little further, do something like that, then I would be pulling a fib from here because that would be the highest point between our low and our lower low. So then I could start looking for something like this. But we don't have that yet. Yeah, when he tweeted about Trump coin, it was literally the top of that relief rally. And actually, so that fib pull that I have, the fact that it lines up with that lower high signal on the 4-hour, that's just additional confluence, right? Just like it was from back here, right? It would have been a beautiful trade. And that's one of my favorite strategies, actually, with the indicators and how I use them for pulling fibs. I love looking like a lower high signal printing on the AI charting tools. I like pulling a bearish fib from those, just like I like pulling a bullish fib from higher lows, technically. The thing with that, so we are actually getting towards support like I talked about earlier. The thing is, though, since that higher low, we printed a lower high signal. So it's not like we printed a higher low followed by a higher high and then looking for that fib pull. So the bullish side of that is actually still a little bit risky. But yeah, I would be willing to keep Fibonacci something like so for now. Curious if this one played out. I have a feeling this one got invalidated and then turned around anyways. Yeah, it actually did break the 115, but then it did turn around. Curious to see how this one plays out. Still no lower sell signal on Bitcoin. Come on. Oh, I guess that is the 5 minute. The 5 minutes basically macro time frame for me now. Yeah, Crypto Tiger, now you're talking. What does the 5-second chart say? The 5 seconds says that my brain hurts. That's what that would say. Well, the thing is, like, I wouldn't call it a straight up rug pull. He dumped on his followers, yes, but never totally rugged. You can look up their trade wallet, though. It's really funny if you go back, and I should have had it up for this. I don't want to go and find it, but it's really funny that it was January 19th that their crypto wallet of Bitcoin and Ethereum blew up by like $400 million or something like that. And it was literally the day that the day that Trump coin topped out was January 19th, I believe. Yes, January 19th was the day Trump coin topped out. And it was also the day that their Bitcoin and Ethereum holdings exploded by hundreds of millions of dollars. Figure out how that happens. And then it was like less than 2 weeks later that Bitcoin and Ethereum went back out into fiat. So the guy who's supposed to save our bags and is super bullish on crypto and stuff, he paper handsed after less than 2 weeks. So take with that information what you will. Grab her by the rug and pull her cat or something like that. Yeah, that's how I remember it. But yeah, honestly, guys, just all political bias aside, that's just those dates. You can go look up their wallet address and stuff, and it'll show you how much their crypto holdings changed and that sort of stuff, and the day that it lines up on, and it's pretty fascinating. And yeah, also, like I said, the fact that somebody didn't hold on for more than a couple weeks, just kind of another reason why all those bullish fundamentals that are, and actually, guys, not even anyone in particular, because so many people are doing it right now, but the constant bullish fundamentals that are being rammed down our throats for all of 2025 so far. And all we keep doing, I mean, like I said, when in doubt, zoom out. Let's zoom out to ever since all this whole year. We have been in a downtrend, and all that happens is, even no matter how bullish fundamentals and tweets and all those sorts of things are across social media and across the media in general, understand that those bullish things being rammed down our throat are doing nothing but setting lower highs. It's not like we get something bullish coming out in the news and, hey, we set a slightly higher high and then we pull back. It is, no, we're getting a bounce to a lower high and then we're pulling back and then some, is what's happening, as demonstrated here, where you know, ooh, we're starting to flip blue here. Might get that sell signal here right away. I wonder if it'll stick. That would just be another reason why my stop loss should be above the 886 as well. If we print a lower sell signal, I want that to have some momentum to it. I want that to show strength from the bears. I don't want to see us set a lower sell and then just start pumping to the upside right away. You really think we go low 86K again? I think we go lower than 70K. I think we're going to go way lower than what people think, but I'm happy to be wrong about that. Okay, low time frame. Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, that would be my Stuber target. Would be about 86.2. Call it 86.3 because I like to front run my fibs a little bit. There's our lower sell signal. The wick on the 4 hour, the one down here, yeah, it is a big wick, but nothing has been broken to invalidate these early warning signs yet, right? Still have a bearish RSI divergence. We still have this nasty reversal on the wave master. Still have structure to the downside. Yeah, we're gonna have to see. That honestly, that's one of the reasons I like trading the shorter time frames. I can rest way easier. I know this isn't for everybody. Most people probably trade the longer time frames better and feel more at ease with it, but I like to know very quickly that I am out of risk, or I know how my position's going to go. I would rather lose very quickly on a tight invalidation setup than let it play out for a week or two and then lose and then have to find another entry after that. So I like the shorter time frames, and that's why I'm taking shorts like this, and then I will be taking profits on the way down. But I hope I get half of a position that just absolutely nukes. And that way, if not, even if I can just hit a couple of my targets, well, even at this point, the fact that my stop loss is just basically above 87.6, basically I'll lock in my fees and shit like that if we end up reversing from here. But obviously I'm hoping to at least hit a couple targets so I can make some money, even if I'm wrong about this, right? If we bounce, let's say we go down a little bit lower, let's say we hit my 86.3 and then we reverse, at least at that point that I've, done myself a favor and paid myself a little before it reversed. But it's still early to say that. We'll have to see how this plays out. You know, I'm actually going to also set a trigger order on half of my position. Basically, the fact that we are setting this little downtrend on the 1 minute, if we break a lower high, I want to make sure that I take some profits rather than just getting stopped out, basically break even. So I think I'm actually going to raise my partial TP to just above the 786 in case we come test this again. But I am going to set a trigger order to lock in some profits if we hit there. But if we hit my first target first, I'm going to end up canceling that. And then I'll just, at least at that point, I've also taken some profits. So just basically looking at two different approaches for how I make sure that I'm going to take some profits on this position, basically. So basically, guys, here's an example of nothing crazy has happened, right? I know everyone has been saying, oh, the price is very choppy recently and stuff. And to be fair, it is, but that volatility is nice as long as you have some sort of a strategy in place, right? Because nothing crazy happened here. If you zoom out a little bit, and this is only the 5 minute, right? So guys, this is a short time frame right here. But even with this, the fact that we had this structure, I mean, there was a couple nice setups to be taken, right? We had this Stuber fib with this TP. We had, I mean, this one so far, I mean, I know I'm going to take profits on this position now. So, like, it's nothing crazy about this level or anything. It's just straight up that, hey, since we set a lower low, we know the structure's to the downside, and this is our lower high. It's no different than how I'm looking at 95K on the 4 hour, right? Basically exactly the same. Low, lower, low, lower, high. Yeah, that's how I used to be as well. I used to more so swing trade, but I found that I actually, when I look at the shorter time frames, I'm a lot less stressed out. I know that's opposite to most people, but it all depends, right? Everyone trades differently. That's the thing, guys. We could have, I know I say this all the time, we could have the same trend lines, the same SR levels, the same indicators, the same settings, the same Fibonacci's, and I guarantee we would trade the market completely different. So whenever you're looking at trading and following other people's strategies and stuff, use the replay feature on TradingView. Do some back testing. Make sure you're looking at things that you kind of have an understanding, and just that you are seeing it the way that you're hoping to see it, right? Because if you see things differently, you may be pulling something completely different that I wouldn't consider my setup, for example, right? Because I know I see that in the Discord quite often. I'll see somebody say, like, oh, here's this Stuber fib, and it's like, oh, actually, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that one. 786, 886, yes, but I don't agree with the structure, or so on, right? Just an example. I'd really like to see us hit my first target here real quick. That Sui position's looking good for you. So, Mihao, this is a perfect example. I guess I don't know exactly what your average entry is, because I don't know if you laddered into this or not. But this would be a good example where, hey, even zooming into the 1 minute, technically there's lower high structure here, right? Because on this micro trend, we set this low and we set this lower low. So this is technically the lower high on the micro trend. So if your average entry was somewhere above the 886, for example, that's where I would consider having a partial TP above that, just because if microstructure breaks, there's a good chance we're going to come test back towards the top of that range. So sometimes when I'm getting myself into scalps, that's what I like to do personally. I'm not telling you what to do. That's just something that I do sometimes if I'm like looking for reasons that why, hey, maybe my Stuber setup isn't going to play out, for example. Maybe it's going to reverse early. I like to zoom into shorter market structure or shorter time frames, observe the market structure, and start to at least consider downsizing the position if certain structure is broken, for example. $28153. Ooh, that's a nice entry. Yeah, so you got closer to the swing fail level. So yeah, that's a perfect example then. If you hadn't taken any profits yet, I personally would have a trigger order with part of a stop loss up there, basically, just to ensure myself that I lock in profits, basically, if I have them, right? Obviously, if you have your own, obviously you do what works for you, obviously, but that's just a way that I like to use that micro analyzing to kind of reduce my risk and make sure I pay myself a little. What was the first TP level for BTC? Just above 86.8 as far as BloFin prices anyways. Obviously exchanges can vary a little bit, but I like to front run my 0.5 fib for my first target. I front run my 214 a little for my second one. Sometimes I'll also set a small order at, like, let's say in this case, double bottom territory. Usually that's a smaller one because I'm hoping that half or 40% of my position turns into a runner. But yeah, the 0.5 and the 214 are my first two targets. I'm actually going to bump this down a little bit. And update a partial TP on that just in case. Actually, it will be a third of my position. 87,188. And my stop loss just above the 886, so now I'm guaranteed to take some decent profits on that at least. Adrian says, try to stay on one time frame and trade that only. Most of the time you don't need to skip from time frame to time frame. Keep it simple and look for the structure only. Very good point. Kind of get used to a certain time frame. If you start flip-flopping around, you might stop taking profits when you should and having different invalidations, etc. The time where I do flip-flop around between time frames is kind of like what I have been explaining here, where, like, the setup is on the 5 minute, but I'm willing to zoom in to look for early weakness and look for an early reason to pay myself, right? But yes, Adrian makes a good point. Just kind of get used to what you're trading. Keep it simple. Trading is difficult enough. Honestly, very difficult. Do yourself a favor and keep it simple. That's honestly why I love Fibonacci so much. I have my levels. I have a structure break. I wait for certain levels to pull back for entries, and then I look for my TPs and my invalidation and stuff, right? Keeping it very simple. Yeah, it's a nice short you got yourself into. Well done. Because guys, another thing you have to consider when trading shorter time frames, don't just consider the position time frame, but think of how fast you need to be setting orders that much faster. You need to be planning ahead. You need to be able to update your orders that much quicker, right? That is a skill on its own when it comes to trading shorter time frames, because if you're trading something on a 1 minute, something catches your eye, you want to enter right now, you might enter 20 or 30 seconds later, and you may have missed your entry. You may not have. You may even get a better one, but just understand that that can change quickly on shorter time frames. Longer time frames too, but obviously more sensitive on shorter time frames. Anyways, legends, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. So hopefully you guys did find this stream useful. Also, those of you guys who are watching this on my YouTube channel a little later, if you want access to the MDX ALGO indicators and Discord, there's a link in the description down below. I've also got a fairly new private Telegram channel where I also share some trade ideas, scalp setups, Stuber fib levels, and just my overall thoughts on the market. A place to keep all my thoughts together. It's completely free for people who trade on BloFin using my new sign up link, and there is a link and you can follow the steps in the description down below. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.